Chapter 494. In the mountain valley, Jiang Liuzi's blood turned cold. Looking at the figure rushing towards him, it was as if he was looking at an ancient beast that had just broken out of its cage. The indescribable sense of oppression made him almost unable to breathe. This bastard is actually a weapon cultivator. It wasn't until this moment that Jiang Liuzi was truly certain of Lu Ye's path. Everything the other party had just displayed was just a means to confuse him. How treacherous! He struggled to shake the long sword in his hand, dispelling the distracting thoughts in his mind. Sword light flashed, and sword flowers began to bloom. The mountain coiling saber was covered in a fiery red spirit chi, and outside the spirit chi was wrapped in an inch-long saber light, adding to its sharpness. The long saber slashed and stabbed, and under the flickering saber light, the blooming sword flowers were quickly annihilated. Amidst a series of crisp sounds and splashes of sparks, Jiang Liuzi's figure couldn't stop retreating, and a huge wound deep enough to see bone appeared on his chest. This was caused by Lu Ye's slash just now. Having just fought a great battle, Jiang Liuzi had consumed a lot of energy and suffered heavy injuries. He was no longer as calm as before, and even his aura had become a little chaotic. His opponent's every strike was difficult for him to parry. His opponent's violent strength and speed were not something a third-order Cloud River Realm cultivator could possess. Just from the strength of his opponent's attacks, Yang Kai almost thought his opponent was a body cultivator who specialized in body tempering. Only a body cultivator could have such powerful strength. And the speed of his saber was so fast that even a sword cultivator like him couldn't compare. What made Jiang Liuzi even more upset was that his opponent's long saber flashed from time to time, sometimes as light as air, sometimes as heavy as a mountain, making it impossible for him to guard against it. Even if he kept retreating, he couldn't weaken his opponent's storm-like attacks. In less than 10 breaths, several deep wounds appeared on his body, the most serious of which was a puncture wound. Originally, such an injury wouldn't be a big deal as long as it wasn't a vital point, but Jiang Liuzi clearly felt that the moment his opponent's long saber pierced into his body, something exploded inside him. It was an extremely sharp thorn that pierced his internal organs. Jiang Liuzi's strength was rapidly fading away, and there were already double images in front of his eyes. But even if the situation was so bad, he still gritted his teeth and persisted. He was a sword cultivator who would rather break than bend. If he was asked to admit defeat, he might as well die in battle right here. At this moment, he only hated himself for being too naive. He had thought that the other party was a spell cultivator after seeing the exquisiteness of the other party's spell. If he hadn't trusted his own judgment too much, he wouldn't have been in such a difficult situation after being tricked by the other party. He had seen sinister people before, but he had never seen someone so sinister. The main reason was that the fox-faced man in front of him was too similar to a magic cultivator. No matter who it was, they would not dare to believe that this guy's true identity was actually a weapon cultivator. What kind of weapon cultivator could cast so many spells at such a fast speed? At this moment, when he looked at the slanted fox again, his expression seemed to contain endless mockery. His chest felt stuffy and he couldn't suppress the mouthful of blood that gushed out of his mouth. Jiang Liuzi gritted his teeth and madly poured his spiritual energy into the long sword in his hand. The long sword instantly glowed brightly. On the opposite side, Lu Yi was aware of the other party's intentions. He obviously wanted to finish this battle in one fell swoop. He didn't know what kind of trump card the other party was going to use, but at this moment, he had the upper hand, so he naturally had no reason to be afraid. His vitality surged, blending with Hu pose and gathering towards his right arm. But before he could display his saber technique, he frowned and suddenly jumped back a few dozen meters. Jiang Liuzi had already prepared his killing move. A shocking sword wave slashed down, but it was blocked by a figure who raised his hand. It was the young man at the Cloud River Realm 9th Order. Even though he was in the 9th Order, he couldn't help but retreat a few steps after blocking Jiang Liuzi's attack. Then he turned around, looked at Lu Yi and frowned. Admit defeat. Previously, Xia Qian had admitted defeat for her side's weapon cultivator. Now, he ran out to admit defeat for Jiang Liuzi, so he didn't break the rules. He knew that if he didn't step forward, Jiang Liuzi would really die here. Sword cultivators all had bad tempers. If Lu Ye's cultivation was higher than Jiang Liuzi's or the same as his, it wouldn't matter, but the key was that Lu Ye's cultivation was 2 minor realms lower than Jiang Liuzi's, so how could he be willing to compromise? He didn't want to ruin his sword heart. Just as he shouted these 2 words, a thud came from behind him. The young man turned his head and saw Jiang Liuzi lying on the ground, covered in blood. Obviously, the last sword strike just now had exhausted all his strength. "You're good." The young man glanced at Lu Yi again, his face full of doubt. A third-order Cloud River Realm cultivator had defeated Jiang Liuzi, 2 minor realms above him. Although there was some intrigue involved, this in itself showed the other party's strength. Who is this little brat? With such a strong background, he couldn't be a nobody. Judging from the other party's third-order cultivation, it was likely that he had come to the Cloud River battlefield less than half a year ago, or even less. So, if he really wanted to inquire about this little brat's identity, it wouldn't be difficult. He just needed to ask if there were any heaven-defying characters in the Spirit Stream battlefield in the past 6 months. The young man carried the unconscious Jiang Liuzi and flew away, leaving Lu Yi still standing in place. In all fairness, he had the advantage in the battle against Jiang Liuzi. Not to mention that the other party had consumed some of his spirit chi. The most important thing was that he had disguised himself as a sword cultivator to take advantage of him. If it were anyone else in Jiang Liuzi's position, they probably wouldn't have been able to block his premeditated attack. The explosion of power was powerful and could only be blocked by a strong enough defense. A sword cultivator's defense naturally couldn't be that strong. Of course, even without these tricks, Lu Yi was confident that he could defeat Jiang Liuzi in a head-on confrontation. The other party was indeed not weak, but he wasn't weak. It was just that the process wouldn't be so easy. On the Spirit Peak, the 4th-order female sword cultivator's mouth formed a circle, unable to close for a long time. When she realized that Lu Yi was a sword cultivator, she was very worried because sword cultivators had a strong suppression on sword cultivators. Once a sword cultivator got close, a sword cultivator basically had no chance of winning. She had been watching in fear until Jiang Liuzi rushed to Lu Ye's side. Then, she saw Lu Yi magically take out a saber and beat Jiang Liuzi like the autumn wind sweeping away fallen leaves. The female sword cultivator's mind rippled as she watched, unable to recover even now. "Senior sister, is he a weapon cultivator?" She was a little slow to realize. Kind of. Xia Qian didn't know how to define Lu Ye's faction. This person was really a bit complicated. "He's so strong." The female sword cultivator's beautiful eyes flashed, and her face was full of admiration. She didn't know where her senior sister found such a powerful helper. Originally, the strength that Jiang Liuzi showed made her look up to a mountain, but now, she saw that there was always a mountain higher than the one before. Sure enough, there were always many geniuses in this world, shining brightly, making an ordinary cultivator like her feel inferior. On the opposite Spirit Peak, the young man and another young man finished checking Jiang Liuzi's injuries. The young man said, "Don't be careless, there's something wrong with this guy." At this moment, the young man even suspected that Lu Yi was wearing some kind of spirit artifact to hide his cultivation. Otherwise, how could a third-order Cloud River Realm cultivator be so strong? The young man looked somewhat similar to Jiang Liuzi, but his expression was more sinister. Hearing this, he nodded and said, "He's dead." As the younger brother of Jiang Liuzi, seeing that his brother was seriously injured and unconscious, he was naturally furious in his heart. He secretly made up his mind that he must kill that fox-faced man and let him know how powerful he and his brother were. In terms of strength alone, he was not as good as Jiang Liuzi, but in terms of killing ability, even 3 Jiang Liuzi together couldn't compare to him, because he was a ghost cultivator. His figure rushed out and flew straight to the mountain valley. Lu Yi looked up and saw his opponent flying over, but soon his opponent hid his figure and disappeared without a trace. A ghost cultivator. Under his mask, Lu Ye's expression was strange. Among all the major sects, he liked ghost cultivators the most. because these guys always relied on their ability to communicate with the netherworld to find ways to quietly sneak up on the enemy and then attack. But for Lu Yi, the concealment methods of ghost cultivators were basically nothing. Imagine a confident ghost cultivator quietly sneaking up on the enemy, but before he could attack, the enemy would attack first. How terrifying would that be? Without the means of sneak attack, ghost cultivators of the same level were much weaker than weapon cultivators in head-on combat. So, seeing that the person had hidden his figure, Lu Yi immediately added the insight spirit inscriptions in his eyes. At the same time, his figure jumped up and directly faced him. The surrounding scenery changed drastically. Under the insight spirit inscriptions, various colors flowed and changed in his field of vision. Back then, when Lu Yi activated the insight spirit inscriptions for the first time, he was still not used to it. Today, he was already used to this strange field of vision. Jiang Qingzi, who was hidden, clearly did not expect that Lu Yi would dare to take the initiative to face a ghost cultivator. While he was slightly surprised, he also admired Lu Ye's courage. Generally speaking, cultivators would use silence to deal with ghost cultivators. Previously, when Jiang Liuzi defeated the ghost cultivators on Lu Ye's side, he used this method. Those who dared to take the initiative to face him mostly wanted to try their luck and break through the ghost cultivator's concealment technique. This was because when ghost cultivators first hid, they would definitely not move too far. As long as the attack range was large enough, it was still very likely that the ghost cultivator would be beaten out. Jiang Qingzi had encountered such enemies in the past, but without exception, they were all taught a lesson by him. Therefore, he felt that the fox-faced man opposite him had the same thoughts. But what surprised him was that although the other party was rushing over, he didn't show any signs of attacking at all. The long saber was held in his hand, and the 9 imperial artifacts circled around him as he charged straight at the place where he was hiding. Jiang Qingzi frowned and hurriedly changed his position. The streams of light from the imperial weapons shot out in all directions. Jiang Qingzi's hidden figure suddenly appeared. The dagger in his hand blocked a stream of light that was attacking him. He shouted in his heart, "How can this person be so lucky?" Chapter 495. In mid-air, Jiang Qingzi's figure appeared. His face was filled with shock. He did not expect his concealment technique to be so easily broken. It was not that it was broken, but that the other party's luck was too good. A casual attack from the 9 imperial artifacts had almost hit him, forcing him to counterattack. Just as he blocked the light from the imperial artifact, his vision suddenly darkened. He raised his head and saw a fox with a sharp mouth and slanted eyes staring at him sinisterly. A saber light flashed, and a sense of danger rose in his heart. Jiang Qingzi hurriedly raised the short blade in his hand to block the incoming attack. With a bang, Jiang Qingzi immediately felt the shock that his brother had felt before. He was shocked. What was going on with this violent power? Continuous saber light slashed down like a storm. Jiang Qingzi's figure continued to fall. In just 5 breaths of time, his entire body fell heavily to the ground like a meteorite falling from the sky. The ground trembled, and a crater immediately appeared on the ground. In the crater was Jiang Qingzi, who was grimacing in pain. He lay in the crater and felt that his arm was broken. There was no part of his body that did not hurt. He was a ghost cultivator, and his ability to fight was indeed inferior to a weapon cultivator, but he was still a ghost cultivator at the 5th Order Cloud River Realm. Against a 3rd Order Cloud River Realm cultivator, he was actually suppressed so easily. It was simply unacceptable. The aura of death pressed down, and he hurriedly shouted, "I admit defeat." The flashing saber light stopped in front of his forehead, and the sharp tip of the saber pressed against his skin. The saber light on the tip of the saber was like a snake's tongue, tearing his skin, and dark red blood flowed out. Jiang Qingzi broke out in a cold sweat. If he had not shouted quickly, he might have really died. His brother was an unbending sword cultivator, and would rather die than submit. However, he, a ghost cultivator, did not have such perseverance. Admitting defeat was shameful, but it was better than losing his life. He was only invited to fight, so there was no need for him to fight to the death. Lu Yi withdrew his saber. Jiang Chengzi hurriedly got up and flew into the sky. This. On the spirit peak, the fourth order female cultivator was dumbfounded. She had never expected that Lu Yi would be able to deal with the other party's ghost cultivators so easily. Even though Lu Yi had already displayed her strength in the previous battle, it was not enough to deal with a ghost cultivator just by being strong enough. How many heroes of 9 regions had fallen into the hands of ghost cultivators because of a moment of carelessness? Ghost cultivators were simply unreasonable when it came to killing people. Previously, when she saw that Jiang Qingzi had concealed himself, she was still worried for Lu Yi. In the end, this battle ended so quickly. Compared to her fellow disciples and Sixth Yi, she only felt that her fellow disciples were simply too weak. On the opposite spirit peak, the 9th order young man stared at Lu Yi in the mountain valley and frowned. Not far from him, there was still a 5th order body cultivator who had yet to fight, but after seeing Lu Ye's strength, Yang Kai knew that even if he sent this body cultivator out, it would only be a matter of time before Lu Yi was defeated. He raised his head and looked at the opposite spirit mountain. You've won this round. Since there was no chance, then there was no need for him to embarrass himself. He had thought that the 2 brothers, Jiang Liuzi and Jiang Qingzi, were already a sure win. Who would have thought that they would invite someone even more powerful? Who the hell is this guy? The young man was extremely curious. Then, shall we have a melee? Xia Qianqian asked. The young man said, how many people can you or I still send out? Previously, he had thought that it would be a battle of attrition, a melee, and the 2 9th order cultivators would fight again. 2 out of 3 wins would be fair, but in the end only 4 or 5 of the 10 people on both sides could still fight. The rest were all seriously injured. Moreover, if they really were to fight in a melee, the young man estimated that his side's chances of winning were very small because the strongest on his side, Jiang Liuzi, was still unconscious while the strongest on the other side, the fox face, was still alive and kicking. Jiang Qingzi could still fight, but he had lost to his opponent and had lost his spirit. If he were to fight again, he estimated that he wouldn't be able to display much of his strength. Then what do you say? You and I will fight, the young man responded indifferently. I think you're really itching for a beating. As her voice fell, Xia Qianqian's figure appeared in the mountain valley and stood beside Lu Yi. You go back first, I'll teach him a lesson. Lu Yi nodded and flew back to the spirit peak where his side was located without saying a word. Before he landed, he heard the sound of an intense battle behind him. Xia Qianqian was a Dharma cultivator, and the young man opposite her was also a Dharma cultivator. Moreover, their cultivations were of the same level. This was really a match for each other. The 2 figures in the mountain valley were constantly moving, and powerful spirit techniques were exchanged back and forth, causing the entire mountain valley to be a mess. Lu Yi watched quietly. Watching others fight was actually very interesting. Many times he could learn something from it, such as how others resolved a crisis in the face of it and how to find a good opportunity to attack the opponent. Just as he was watching seriously, he suddenly felt something and looked down, meeting a pair of beautiful eyes. Is something the matter? The female Dharma cultivator quickly shook her head. Nothing, it's just, you're so strong. Lu Yi nodded slightly. I know. Female Dharma cultivator, ? The battle between the 2 9th order cultivators was fierce and dazzling, but after watching for a while, Lu Yi couldn't tell who was stronger. He only felt that the 2 of them were evenly matched, and it was very likely that the battle would end in a draw. If that was the case, then it would still be a chaotic battle. The female Dharma cultivator on the side obviously also realized this, so she leaned over to Lu Yi and whispered, Junior brother, if you need us to help later, you have to protect me. Under the fox mask, Lu Ye's gaze lowered slightly. No problem. Junior brother, you're the best. The female Dharma cultivator beamed. Hoopa, who was crouching on Lu Ye's shoulder, growled at her. She reached out to tease him, but she was bitten by Hoopa. Although there was no blood, she still cried out in pain, her face full of grievance. As they spoke, the battle in the mountain valley stopped for some reason, and the 2 figures faced each other from a distance. The young man said, The spirit land is yours. Although he didn't lose this round, he didn't mention anything about a chaotic battle, because his side didn't have a good chance of winning. Forcing a chaotic battle would only bring shame to himself. At least you know what's good for you. Xia Qian coldly snorted. The young man looked past Xia Qian and glanced at Lu Yi, who was on the spirit peak. He turned around and flew away. A moment later, a spirit boat soared into the sky and quickly disappeared. When Xia Qian returned, the female Dharma cultivator greeted her with cheers. "Senior sister, you're amazing." Xia Qian shook her head. "I didn't win. It could be considered a draw. Fellow Taoist Xia, this matter is over. I'll take my leave first." Lu Yi stepped forward. "No hurry, I'll take you to the spirit land," Xia Qian said. She took out a flying spirit tool and carried a few injured people on it. She called out to Lu Yi, "Let's go." Lu Yi hurriedly followed. The spiritual land was not far from here, located on top of a spiritual mountain. When they arrived, everyone landed one by one. Lu Yi looked around and saw a spirit spring that was spewing spirit chi. He sensed a little and found that this spirit land was similar to the one he had been in before. They were both third-grade spirit lands, and the scale was small. If you're willing to stay, the 5 of you can occupy this spirit land. Although it's only a third-grade spirit land, it's not bad and can meet your current cultivation needs, Xia Qian said. For such a small spirit land, 5 people was the best choice. It wasn't that it couldn't accommodate more people, but if there were more, the spirit chi spewing out from the spirit spring wouldn't be enough. Moreover, with 5 people working together, the spirit land's defensive power would be enough to deal with most situations. Moreover, if Lu Yi stayed here, it would be better than several 5th-order cultivators, so Xia Qian sincerely hoped that he could stay. However, she didn't know whether Lu Yi would be willing or not. If it were any other 3rd-order Cloud River Realm cultivator, they would be more than happy to accept such a good thing delivered to their doorstep. However, Lu Yi wasn't an ordinary 3rd-order Cloud River Realm cultivator. With his attainments in the Tao of Arrays, if he really wanted to cultivate in a spirit land below 3rd grade, as long as there was a spot available, no one would refuse. "I still have to find a junior brother of mine." "Thank you for your kindness," Lu Yi declined. Xia Qian didn't insist, "Then help me arrange some spirit arrays." Lu Yi looked at her speechlessly. Everything was already settled, so why did this woman still bring him here? It turned out that she wanted him to work. "I need array flags and array bases." Lu Yi didn't have any objections to helping her arrange the spirit arrays. After all, it wouldn't take much effort. However, he wouldn't pay for the materials. Not to mention other things, just the array bases for the spirit arrays were already expensive. If he wanted to arrange other spirit arrays, the array flags would also cost a lot. "I've bought them," Xia Qian said as she untied a storage bag from her waist and tossed it to Lu Yi. When she went to the Heavenly Secret Commerce Union to find Lu Yi, she deliberately bought a spirit array base and many array flags just for this moment. What else could Lu Yi say when she was so well prepared? He opened the storage bag and checked its contents. He found that the spirit arrays Xia Qian bought weren't of the highest grade. Instead, they were slightly inferior, with only 8 array bases. To be honest, a spirit array with 8 array bases was enough for such a small spirit land. There was no need to make it too good. Lu Yi had previously arranged a spirit array with 16 array bases in his own spirit land. In the end, it was broken through by brute force, and the spirit array bases were completely destroyed. He lost over 10,000 merit points in an instant. The injured people were healing their wounds. Xia Qian was cultivating, and Lu Yi was busy arranging the spirit arrays. However, the female spirit array cultivator followed Lu Yi obediently, praising and worshipping him. She would occasionally act coquettishly, obviously hoping that Lu Yi would stay. After all, having such a strong person by her side gave her a sense of security. This caused Hupo to reveal his true form. He caught her off guard and pushed her to the ground. He opened his bloody mouth and roared at her. The female spirit array cultivator was so frightened that her face turned pale. Only then did she not dare to approach Lu Yi. Spirit arrays, protective arrays, concealment arrays, warning arrays, and finally, several killing arrays in the spirit land. He was busy for an entire day. He found Xia Qian and told her the locations of the spirit arrays. He also gave her the jade pendant that controlled the spirit arrays and demonstrated it to her. Only then was he done. Chapter 496. In the spirit land, Xia Qian and the female cultivator watched Lu Yi leave. The latter kept waving her hand, reluctant to part with him. Xia Qian glanced at her. "He's already gone, little hussy. Why are you still waving?" The female cultivator felt wronged. "Senior sister, how can you say that? You're really useless." Xia Qian was disappointed. "That guy doesn't like women, what can I do?" The female cultivator felt even more wronged. She had followed Lu Yi around and tried her best to show off her beauty, but she still couldn't make Lu Yi stay. "Take good care of them. I'll leave first. I'll find you an array cultivator later," Xia Qian said, then handed the jade ring to the female cultivator and flew into the sky. "Senior sister, take care." The female cultivator continued waving. In the air, Lu Yi flew on his artifact, still wearing the fox mask on his face. He felt like a bird flying in the sky and a fish swimming in the sea. He was in a good mood. He was no longer in the spirit stream battlefield, where he would be recognized wherever he went and then beaten up by everyone. His current life was too comfortable. When night fell, he landed and found a cave in the wilderness to rest and recuperate. A bonfire crackled in the cave, and a large piece of beast meat was roasting on it. It was golden yellow, and the aroma of meat filled the air. Deep in the cave, Lu Yi was busy setting up a spirit array. Yi's figure suddenly emerged from the ground and came to Lu Ye's side, whispering, "I didn't find him." Lu Yi nodded. "It's normal that you didn't find him. It should be a ghost cultivator." And it was very likely that it was Jiang Qingzi, who he had fought yesterday. After bidding farewell to Xia Qian, Lu Yi didn't set off for long before he felt like he was being watched. He had also had this feeling when he was in the spirit stream battlefield, and it turned out that he wasn't being paranoid. Someone really was secretly following him. Now that he was a third-order Cloud River Realm cultivator, his mind was much stronger than when he was in the spirit stream realm. So, although he didn't know who was secretly following him, he was sure that he was being watched. He had gone to look for traces of the person who was secretly following him, but she didn't find anything. If a fifth-order Cloud River Realm ghost cultivator wanted to hide, Lu Yi would have to use his insight spirit inscriptions to investigate somewhere not far away. He alone couldn't find him. Sure enough, it wasn't easy to obtain benefits from Xia Qian. It seemed that his previous actions had. After all, a third-order Cloud River Realm cultivator was able to defeat two fifth-order Cloud River Realm cultivators 2 minor realms above him. More importantly, Jiang Liuzi and his brother weren't ordinary fifth-order cultivators. It was hard not to attract attention. But when he was fighting against Jiang Liuzi, a sword cultivator, it was impossible for Lu Yi to hide his strength. His cultivation was already inferior to Jiang Liuzi's. If he still hid his strength when fighting against a sword cultivator who was known for killing, it would be no different from courting death. Although Lu Yi could increase his speed and shake off his pursuers after noticing that someone was following him, it would be too obvious if he did so. There was more than one way to get rid of the other party. As for secretly looking for traces of the other party, it wasn't a good idea. Since the other party was following him, he must have helpers. The ninth-order young man was most likely involved. He might even be the mastermind. Against such a master, Lu Yi wasn't his opponent. A moment later, Lu Yi walked out of the cave and soared into the sky. In the darkness, Jiang Qingzi stared at Lu Ye's figure, puzzled. Just as Lu Yi thought, the one who was secretly watching him was Jiang Qingzi. He was also entrusted by the ninth-order young man to follow him all the way here. Lu Ye's actions puzzled him. Why didn't this guy rest well at night? Why was he suddenly in a hurry? He quickly sent out a message and continued to follow Lu Ye's figure. Half an hour later, Lu Yi landed 100 kilometers away. As usual, he found a cave and walked in. In the dark, Jiang Qingzi also landed and sent out another message. Dozens of kilometers away, the ninth-order young man rushed over with Jiang Liuzi. They didn't dare to get too close before, so as not to alarm Lu Yi. If they did, Lu Yi would definitely call for help. It would be troublesome if they provoked Xia Qianqian. After a day of rest, Jiang Luzi's injuries were much better. Following behind the young man, he asked in confusion, "Senior Brother Wei, what's the background of that fox face? Why is Senior Brother Wei paying so much attention to him?" The fox face was very strong, beyond imagination. It was certain that he wasn't an unknown master, but it wasn't enough to attract the attention of Wei Ke, a ninth-order Cloud River Realm cultivator. After all, he was someone who was about to break through to the true Lake Realm. How could he put ordinary people in his eyes? Wei Ke heard this and asked, "Do you know the Jade Blood Sect?" Of course. The Jade Blood Sect of the War Province was a dominating sect 30 years ago. It was also the leader of the Grand Heaven Alliance. The Jade Blood Sect has a Lu Yi. Have you heard of him? Jiang Luzi was surprised. Are you saying that the fox face is Lu Yi of the Jade Blood Sect? It seems that you have heard of him. Wei Ke smiled slightly. It wasn't difficult to find out Lu Ye's identity. He just had to ask someone about any monstrous figure that had appeared in the Spirit Stream battlefield in the past 6 months. Moreover, it was a saber-wielding weapon cultivator. After retreating with his people, Wei Ke immediately sent out a message and asked someone to inquire about this matter. Originally, he was just curious about Lu Ye's identity and wanted to find out more. As a result, he found a big fish. Lu Yi of the Jade Blood Sect was wanted by many sects in Myriad Demon Ridge. The bounty of the various sects was enough to make even him, a ninth-order Cloud River Realm cultivator, jealous. It could be said that as long as he could kill Lu Yi, he wouldn't have to worry about cultivation resources for the rest of his life. How could Wei Ke not be tempted by such a great temptation? He immediately asked Jiang Qingzi to lurk near the Spirit Land and track Lu Ye's movements. As soon as Lu Yi left, Jiang Qingzi followed him from a distance. As for Jiang Luzi, it wasn't surprising that he knew about Lu Yi because he was still in the Spirit Stream battlefield when the battle on Golden Light Summit broke out. He had heard about it, but at that time, Jiang Luzi and his brother were 9th Order Heaven-grade cultivators, and Lu Yi was just an ordinary 5th Order cultivator. He had only heard about it and didn't pay much attention to it. At that time, Lu Ye's life was related to the survival of the Jade Blood Sect, so he hadn't shown any threat to the Myriad Demon Ridge forces. 2 months after the battle on Golden Light Summit, Jiang Luzi and his brother broke through to the Cloud River battlefield and hadn't left since. So, they hadn't heard about the various storms that Lu Yi had caused in the Spirit Stream battlefield. However, he was still aware of the bounty issued by the various large sects of the Myriad Devil Ridge for Lu Yi. At that time, it was because of the bounty issued by the various large sects of the Myriad Devil Ridge that thousands of cultivators gathered at the Golden Light Peak, allowing Lu Yi to win 43 consecutive battles without a single defeat. Isn't his cultivation speed a bit too fast? Jiang Luzi was shocked. How long had it been since the battle on Golden Light Summit? That little character who had caused a war between the two camps had actually broken through to the Cloud River battlefield? Moreover, he was a 3rd Order Cloud River Realm cultivator. One had to know that the two brothers had come to the Cloud River battlefield 1 or 2 years earlier than Lu Yi, but they were still only 5th Order Cloud River Realm cultivators. It's not just his cultivation speed. You two brothers probably don't know what he did in the Spirit Stream battlefield. To be honest, when Wei Ke received the detailed information about Lu Yi, he was also shocked. Lu Ye's 2 years in the Spirit Stream battlefield were simply 2 years of suffering for the Myriad Demon Ridge. Especially in the later stages, Lu Yi of the Jade Blood Sect became an overlord as a cultivator. Wherever he went, the various sects of Myriad Demon Ridge would tremble. Now that he had a chance to hide his identity and wear a fox mask, he had almost been discovered by others. It could only be said that the affairs of the world were unpredictable. Chapter 497. Jiang Liuzi frowned. How long has he been in the Cloud River battlefield? I don't know exactly when he entered the Cloud River battlefield, but according to the intelligence, he broke through to the Cloud River realm less than 2 months ago. Jiang Liuzi sucked in a breath of cold air. In other words, even if he entered the Cloud River battlefield as soon as he broke through, it would only be such a long time. But he was already a third-order Cloud River Realm cultivator. What kind of cultivation speed was this? The Cloud River Realm was indeed a realm that could rapidly increase one's cultivation because of the miraculous spirit lot. However, spirit lots were not easy to obtain. Even if one encountered a heaven-bestowed spirit lot, one would have to compete with hundreds or thousands of people, and only then would one have the chance to grab one or two. The quality of the spirit lot was also not something that could be forced. The purple and gold spirit lots were definitely the targets of 8th or 9th order masters. With Jiang Liuzi's current cultivation, he would at most dare to grab a blue spirit lot. If he dared to have any ideas about the purple or gold spirit lot, he would definitely be taught a lesson. How many spirit lots did Lu Ye get to the third-order Cloud River realm in one go? Everything was afraid of comparison. Jiang Liuzi thought that his cultivation speed was fast enough, but compared to Lu Yi, it was completely insignificant. "We're here." As they spoke, the two figures landed, and Jiang Chengzi, who was hiding in the dark, came out to greet them. "Still here?" Wei Kei asked. "Over there, there's a cave. He's hiding inside and hasn't come out." Jiang Chengzi pointed in a direction. "Very good." Wei Kei showed a happy expression and ordered, "Jiang Chengzi, go in and sneak attack him. If you can succeed, that would be best, but if you can't, Jiang Liuzi and I will kill him together. After we succeed, I'll get 60% of the benefits, and you two brothers will get 40%. Although Wei Kei opened his mouth to take 60% of the benefits, he did have such qualifications with his 9th order cultivation, so Jiang Liuzi naturally had no objections. As for Jiang Chengzi, he still didn't understand Lu Ye's identity, so he naturally didn't know what 40% of the benefits meant, but since his brothers didn't say anything, he naturally wouldn't say anything. "Then I'll go." As Jiang Chengzi spoke, he took out a pitch-black short blade and held it in his hand. His figure quickly disappeared and he moved in the direction of the cave. Previously, when he had fought with Lu Yi in the valley, his concealment technique had been broken, and he had been taught a miserable lesson. Jiang Chengzi was naturally unwilling to accept this because he felt that Lu Yi had been lucky. His concealment technique had been broken, and he had been forced to fight in close quarters. How could he be a match for Lu Yi? He swore in his heart that this time, he was going to correct the ghost's name. Let that fox-faced man know the terror of a ghost cultivator's attack. After his figure disappeared, Wei Kei and Jiang Liuzi were ready to support him at any time. After waiting for a moment, there was a sudden explosion from the direction of the cave, followed by flames that soared to the sky. Wei Kei and Jiang Liuzi, who were on high alert, were both startled. They couldn't understand how Jiang Chengzi could cause such a ruckus just by going to kill a third-order Cloud River Realm cultivator. Furthermore, the commotion didn't sound right. It was as if, "Not good," Jiang Liuzi exclaimed. He turned into a sword light and rushed in the direction of the source of the commotion. Wei Kei also frowned and followed. A moment later, amidst the collapsed rocks, Jiang Liuzi dug out Jiang Chengzi, who was buried underground. At this moment, Jiang Chengzi was covered in blood, his hair was disheveled, and his body was scorched. He was in an extremely sorry state. Fortunately, his life was not in danger. "What happened? Where is Lu Yi?" Wei Kei asked. The cave had already collapsed, but there was no Lu Yi here. There was only Jiang Chengzi. Jiang Chengzi gasped for breath, looking like he had just survived a disaster. After a while, he replied, "I didn't see anyone. There was an explosion array set up here." He thought that this trip would be able to wash away his shame. However, not long after he walked into the cave, he stepped into an explosion array. There was not much room to move in the cave, so even if Jiang Chengzi had noticed it the moment the array exploded, there was no way he could escape. Then the array was activated and the cave collapsed, burying him inside. As for that fox-faced man, he didn't see him at all. "Didn't you say he was here?" Wei Kei's expression was a little ugly. "He was indeed inside, but I don't know why he disappeared," Jiang Chengzi explained. He saw the fox-faced man walk into the cave with his own eyes, and from the beginning to the end, there was no sign of him coming out. But that guy just disappeared like a ghost. Now, it seemed that the only explanation was that the other party had noticed that someone was following him, So he deliberately set up an ambush array in the cave and used a concealment talisman to quietly leave. Wei Kei's face was gloomy. He thought that it would be a great trip, but it turned out to be a wasted trip. The key was that there was no way to find Lu Yi's trace now. In this huge Cloud River battlefield, if the other party wanted to hide, who could find him? Of course, if the news was leaked and the cultivators of the entire 10,000 Demon Ridge camp were mobilized, Lu Yi would have no way out. However, the situation in the Cloud River battlefield was much more complicated than the Spirit Stream battlefield, and he didn't want to share this great benefit with too many people. With his Cloud River 9th Order cultivation, as long as he found Lu Yi's whereabouts, he was confident that he could kill him. The reason why he brought the Jiang brothers this time was nothing more than to borrow Jiang Chengzi's ability as a ghost cultivator to track Lu Yi. He had been careful enough, but he didn't expect that he would still fail. The problem didn't lie with Jiang Chengzi. He was a 5th Order ghost cultivator, and his concealment methods were superb enough. Logically speaking, it was impossible for Lu Yi, who was only a 3rd Order, to detect him. But Lu Yi still noticed him and even set up a trap. This guy. What a strong perception. Let's split up and look for him. He must not have gone far. Wei Kei said as his figure soared into the sky, leaving the Jiang brothers looking at each other. Yang Kai was not afraid that the Jiang Liuzi brothers would not inform him if they found Lu Yi's whereabouts, because with the ability Lu Yi had shown before, the Jiang Liuzi brothers did not have the ability to quickly kill Lu Yi. If they really found his whereabouts, they would definitely inform him. On the contrary, if he found Lu Yi, he could eat it all alone. The only thing to worry about was that the brothers would send a message to their own sect. The sect behind the Jiang brothers was a 2nd Order sect, so naturally, there would be many masters active in this Cloud River battlefield. This matter couldn't be stopped, and he didn't want to stop it. Who is that guy? Why does senior brother Wei seem to care so much about him? After Wei Kei left, Jiang Chengzi asked. Blue Blood Sect, Lu Yi. It sounds familiar. Where have I heard it before? The Battle of Golden Light Peak, Jiang Luzi reminded him. So it's that little brat. Hiss. I remember that this little brat has a bounty on his head from various sects. Now you know why Wei Kei values him so much, right? Jiang Chengzi suddenly became spirited, and his injuries didn't hurt as much. Then what are we waiting for? Let's go find him quickly. First, send a message to senior brother Lu Shu and the others. Wei Kei wants to leave us to eat alone, but we have to see if he has the ability to do so, Jiang Luzi said as he sent out a few messages. Although they were all cultivators of the same camp and stood on the same side, when it came to other matters, there would be some open and covert struggles. This was human nature. Soon, more people learned about Lu Yi from the Blue Blood sect. These 8th and 9th Order masters who were active in the Cloud River battlefield all year round might not have heard of this name before, but Jiang Luzi had explained all the information about Lu Yi, so how could they not be tempted? After all, a 3rd Order Cloud River realm cultivator was related to a huge amount of cultivation resources. This kind of opportunity was hard to come by, so they all set out and rushed in this direction. They were afraid that others would beat them to it. At the same time, in the cave where he first hid, Lu Yi was eating roasted beast meat. The two caves were 100 kilometers apart. Naturally, he was able to return so quickly with the help of a transmission array. He had previously left a transmission mother array here, and then went 100 kilometers away to arrange a transmission child array and directly teleported back. When Jiang Chengzi stepped into the cave, he triggered the explosion array that he had left behind. The cave must have collapsed from the explosion, and the teleportation subarray that he had left behind would also be destroyed. No matter who went there, they would not be able to find any clues. The time was just right for him to return, and the beast meat he had left here was ready. Lu Yi hadn't used the transmission array for a long time, and this time, he found something interesting. The feeling of being teleported was not as uncomfortable, and the connection between the transmission child array and the mother array was closer. This was undoubtedly related to the improvement of his cultivation. After all, when he arranged the transmission array in the Spirit Stream battlefield, he was only at Tianqi realm. In other words, with his current cultivation, the transmission array he arranged could teleport him further, no longer limited to a mere 100 kilometers. This was good news. The further the distance a transmission array could teleport, the more valuable it would be. Louis didn't stay in the cave for long. He put away the array flag and walked out with the roasted beast meat. He had to leave this place as soon as possible. 100 kilometers was nothing to a Cloud River tier cultivator. Those who had been tracking him had suffered a loss in the cave on the other side, and would definitely continue to search for him. If he delayed for too long, they might be able to find him. The sky was as dark as ink, and not a single star could be seen. Louis hurried through the night, and the direction he was heading in was naturally deliberately avoiding the direction of the second cave. By dawn, he had already traveled several thousand kilometers, and only then did he find a place to land in the wilderness. There was a clear spring in the wilderness, and the journey was dusty. Louis first took Hoopa to take a bath, and then found a secluded place to set up a few simple formations, and made some slight adjustments. After recovering his spirit and spiritual power, he took out a purple spirit lot. Naturally, it was drawn from the lot box that Xia Qianqian had given him. Spirit lots were the favorite treasures of cultivators, and when it was in their hands, they naturally had to use it as soon as possible to convert it into their own strength. Chapter 498. A few hours later, the purple spirit ring dissipated. Louis checked his spirit energy river and found that it had increased in size, but it was still far from reaching the fourth order realm. After coming out of the sealed world in the realm of beasts, he had used nearly 30,000 merit points to reach the third order realm. Moreover, he had accumulated a lot of spirit energy in the third order realm, but the higher a cultivator's cultivation, the more resources they needed. Based on his own experience in the Cloud River realm, if spirit sticks represented resources, he should only need 1 golden spirit stick to advance from the first order realm to the second order, 2 golden spirit sticks to advance from the second order to the third order, 3 or 4 golden spirit sticks to advance from the third order to the fourth order, and even more from the fourth order to the fifth order. Therefore, even if he had accumulated a lot of spirit energy in the third order realm, a single purple spirit stick was not enough to change his cultivation. However, Louis was already very satisfied with this. It had been less than 2 months since he entered the Cloud River battlefield, but he had already reached the third order Cloud River realm. This kind of cultivation speed might not be unprecedented, but it was still rare in 100 years. What was there to be dissatisfied with? Just as he was about to set off, a humming sound came from an inexplicable place. In an instant, the sky changed color. Louis instinctively raised his hand and pressed the hilt of his saber, vigilant of his surroundings. Before he could find out what had happened, a dazzling light suddenly rose from a distant place in his field of vision. It was as bright as a new star. However, what made people feel uneasy was that the dazzling light was blood red. The red light rose to an extremely high altitude, becoming brighter and brighter. At this moment, cultivators in a radius of hundreds of thousands of kilometers could see it clearly. Staring at the ominous red light, Louis frowned, thinking about all the information he had bought from the Heavenly Secret Commerce Union. He did not know what was going on, but such a huge movement was obviously not man-made. The Cloud River battlefield was full of Cloud River realm cultivators, and Cloud River realm cultivators did not have such great ability. Since it was not man-made, it must be a manifestation of heaven's will. Soon, Louis recalled some information he had read before, and his face changed. He quickly turned around and activated the Flying Wings spiritual tattoo instead of the spiritual boat. A fiery red stream of light spread out behind him and turned into a pair of wings. He flapped his wings and soared into the sky. Not only that, he also enhanced himself with the wind spiritual tattoo. At this moment, Louis raised his speed to the limit, completely ignoring the crazy consumption of his spiritual energy. He fled in panic as if there was a great flood behind him. Louis, what's wrong? Yi's voice came from within Hoopo's body. She didn't know why Louis looked like he was being chased. She sensed her surroundings, but there was no trace of the enemy. I'll tell you later. Louis was busy running for his life. He didn't have the time to explain too much. If it was really as he thought, then this place was definitely not a place to stay for long. Although staying here might bring him opportunities, It was even more dangerous. He was just a third-order Cloud River Realm cultivator, so it was best not to get involved in this kind of thing. Lu Yi fled as fast as he could while behind him, the dazzling red light remained suspended in midair for at least a stick of incense worth of time. During this period, there was no change. It wasn't until a stick of incense worth of time later that the red light suddenly exploded. Then, with the red light as its source, a red line visible to the naked eye radiated out in all directions. Looking around, it was as if a meteor shower was falling from the sky as a series of blood-red streaks of light cut through the sky, radiating out in all directions. After a stick of incense worth of time, with the help of his flying wings and wind spiritual to-do, Lu Yi had flown at least 200 or 300 kilometers. At that moment, Yi's exclamation rang out, "Be careful!" The dazzling red light suddenly fell straight in front of Lu Ye's eyes and transformed into a red spirit energy light curtain. Lu Ye's eyes narrowed. He had no time to slow down and could only cross his arms in front of him while leaning sideways. With a bang, Lu Ye's body slammed into the red spirit energy light curtain. It was as if he had hit a wall, but the red light curtain remained motionless while Lu Yi was directly bounced back and slammed into the ground. For a moment he felt dizzy and pain all over his body. Standing up awkwardly, Lu Yi stared at the red light curtain in front of him with complicated feelings. In the end, he had not been able to escape, and this red light curtain had actually appeared right in front of him. It was too much of a coincidence. Moving his body around to make sure there were no broken bones, Lu Yi turned around and looked up. High up in the sky, he saw a red light curtain covering the dazzling sun. If one looked down from high up in the sky, this red light curtain looked like an inverted bowl, completely enveloping an area of several 100,000 kilometers, isolating it from the outside world. Lu Ye's current position was right at the edge of this inverted bowl. Now that he was trapped here, there was no need to look for giant armor. He flashed out and stared at the huge red light curtain in shock. The red light curtain was like flowing blood, giving off an ominous and murderous feeling. "Lu Yi, what is this?" "The hunting ground." As Lu Yi spoke, he handed the information jade slip that he had bought from the Heavenly Secret Commerce Alliance to. The hunting ground was rather complicated and could not be explained in a short period of time, so it was better to let Yi investigate it herself. Yi took it and immersed herself in reading the information about the hunting ground. Lu Yi, on the other hand, was looking around. If he had only been suspicious before, he was now certain that this was really the hunting ground. However, he did not expect that he would encounter such a thing. The hunting ground was a name and could be considered a sudden occurrence. It was a sudden occurrence that was unique to the Cloud River battlefield. The appearance of the hunting ground was marked by the rising of a red star and the blood curtain covering the sky. The hunting ground varied in size, and the pattern of its appearance was difficult to grasp. Sometimes, it would not appear once in a year or two, and sometimes, it would appear several times in a year. The location of its appearance was completely random, but when the hunting ground appeared, it would be within the range of the blood curtain. In other words, cultivators could enter the hunting ground from outside, but before the hunting ground disappeared, they would not be able to leave. Looking at the range of the blood curtain this time, this was undoubtedly a large-scale hunting ground. After all, it covered an area of hundreds of thousands of miles. Even for Cloud River tier cultivators, this was not a small range. However, compared to the entire Cloud River battlefield, the area of hundreds of thousands of miles was only a drop in the ocean. Since it was called the hunting ground, there was naturally no lack of fighting and killing. Normally, when unfamiliar Cloud River tier cultivators met, it was very difficult to start a conflict because no one knew which faction the other belonged to. However, in the hunting ground, as long as cultivators were within a certain range of each other, their factions would be exposed. This was similar to the declaration of war by the sects on the Spirit Stream battlefield. On the Spirit Stream battlefield, if a sect declared war on another sect, the cultivators of both sides would also reveal their factions when they met. This made it easier for unfamiliar cultivators to distinguish between friend and foe. Since Lu Yi entered the Cloud River battlefield, apart from killing a few myriad Demon's Ridge cultivators when he took back the spiritual land, he had not killed anyone else. This was not because he was cultivating, but because he really did not have the opportunity. Even if he met other cultivators in the wilderness, it was difficult to start a conflict without knowing which faction the other party belonged to. However, it was different in the hunting ground. As long as the distance between the two parties was close enough, their factions could be seen at a glance. This could easily lead to some fighting and killing, especially when the difference in cultivation between the two parties was too great. This was also the reason why Lu Yi had wanted to escape when he sensed that something was wrong. He was only a third-order Cloud River tier cultivator. Even if he had the ability to kill enemies above his realm, if he really encountered 8th or 9th order Cloud River tier cultivators, let alone being able to defeat them, he was afraid that he would not even be able to escape. The sudden occurrence of the hunting ground was still too dangerous for him. Unfortunately, he did not manage to escape. The range of the hunting ground just happened to cover him. He seriously suspected that he had been targeted. Otherwise, it would not have been so coincidental that he was just a few steps away. There was no doubt that the appearance of the hunting ground was due to the operation of Heaven's will. It could be said that this thing was created by Heaven's will. When Lu Yi first came into contact with Heaven's will, he felt that Heaven's will was illusory. However, as his cultivation increased and his vision broadened, he slowly discovered that Heaven's will was everywhere in the life of a cultivator. Although there were many battles and killings in the hunting ground, there were also great benefits and opportunities. Without mentioning anything else, the most common thing that appeared in the hunting ground was the heavenly spirit lot, and there was a high chance that a golden spirit lot would appear. The heavenly spirit lot did not always have a golden spirit lot. Just like when Lu Yi had just entered the Cloud River battlefield, the clouds that appeared at that time only had 4 colors, so the highest quality spirit lot that appeared was only purple. Only a 5-colored cloud would bring a golden spirit lot. Correspondingly, if there were a 3-colored cloud, the highest quality spirit lot would be a blue spirit lot. If there were 2 colors, then only a white spirit lot and a green spirit lot would appear. Not only that, but every time a hunting ground appeared, it would be accompanied by the birth of a killing ground list. Just like the spirit stream list, the top 100 cultivators would be rewarded by Heaven's will. As for exactly what the reward was, Lu Yi had no idea. There was no record of it in the intelligence reports from the Heaven's Will Business Alliance. In addition to that, Heaven's Will would choose one person from the hunting ground each day and bestow a golden spirit lot. That was not a good thing. To cultivators with low cultivation bases, it was a nightmare. That was because the golden spirit lot bestowed by Heaven's Will was a special kind of spirit lot. It could not be used directly, nor could it be stored in a bag of holding. Only after 24 hours had elapsed would the special golden spirit lot become a normal golden spirit lot. Only then could it truly be used. Chapter 499. Most importantly, within those 24 hours, the special spirit lot would explode once every 6 hours. No matter how well the cultivator with the spirit lot hid, their location would be exposed instantly. Spirit lots as such would often be fought over by experts from all walks of life. After all, compared to trying one's luck with the Heaven Bestowment Spirit Lot, this was a true golden spirit lot. As long as one's cultivation was high enough, it would be a gain if they could get their hands on it. Lu Ye's expression was calm as he recalled all sorts of information regarding the hunting ground. Since he could not hide, he could only participate in it. He could foresee that in the coming days, there would definitely be a large number of cultivators rushing to the hunting ground from all directions, especially those with high cultivation. For Lu Yi, the hunting ground was filled with danger. However, for cultivators who were strong enough, the hunting ground was filled with opportunities. None of them would miss out on such an opportunity. Lu Yi did not expect to obtain many opportunities in the hunting ground. At the very least, he wanted to survive. Even though his cultivation was not high, his survivability was much stronger than cultivators of the same level. In terms of concealment, he had the concealment and aura concealment spirit patterns. In terms of escape, he had the flying wings and wind travel. Therefore, as long as he did not meet with experts who were too strong, he was confident that he could protect himself. However, this was still not enough. He needed to make even more preparations. As these thoughts flashed through his mind, Lu Yi made up his mind. He inwardly rejoiced that he had refined enough array flags before. Otherwise, he really wouldn't feel safe in this environment. In fact, there was a heavenly secret business alliance within the hunting ground. After all, how could there not be a single heavenly secret business alliance within a radius of hundreds of thousands of kilometers? However, when the hunting ground appeared, the heavenly secret business alliance would not open for business and would close down immediately. Therefore, even if there was a heavenly secret business alliance, there was no way one could enter to seek refuge, let alone trade. That was also the rule of heavenly secret. Lu Yi had sufficient spirit stones, elixirs, formation flags, and foundation. Therefore, as long as he was careful, it would not be an issue for him to survive the closing of the hunting ground. Generally speaking, the hunting ground would not appear for more than a month. Most of the time, it would be between half a month to a month. As for how long it would last, it was hard to determine. Before the hunting ground disappeared, there would be some warnings from the heavens. At that time, all the cultivators in the hunting ground would be able to sense it. Just as Lu Yi was thinking about this, the red light curtain beside him suddenly distorted. Then, a figure squeezed through the light curtain and appeared not far from him. Someone had come in from outside. It was just that the person did not expect to bump into Lu Yi as soon as he came in. Their eyes met, and the back of Lu Yi's hand uncontrollably blossomed with a blue light, while the back of his opponent's hand blossomed with a red light. The other party was from the Myriad Demon's Ridge. Judging from the other party's physique and abundant blood and chi, this fellow was clearly an individual cultivator. Since he dared to barge into the hunting grounds alone, his cultivation base was definitely not low. Cultivators with low cultivation bases would never take the initiative to enter the hunting grounds. Walking in here to die? After a slight stalemate, the body cultivator looked at Lu Yi and then at Yi beside him and said, "I'm just passing by." Although they were from opposing factions, the body cultivator clearly did not intend to make a move before figuring out the other party's cultivation base, especially when Lu Yi and Yi were together. He expressed his attitude, nodded slightly to Lu Yi, and walked away from the side. Lu Yi stared at him expressionlessly, showing no intention of stopping him. He also just stood quietly beside Lu Yi. After walking a few dozen feet, the body cultivator suddenly stopped and said, "You want to leave here, right?" As soon as he said this, Lu Yi pounced straight at the other party. At the same time, Yi, who had been accumulating power, raised her hand and sent a golden arc at the body cultivator. The body cultivator suddenly turned around and punched out, shattering Yi's spell. He grinned maliciously and said, "As expected." As soon as he came in, he saw Lu Yi and Yi together. He did not dare to make a move because he did not know the cultivation base of the enemy. He said that he was just passing by, but in fact he was probing to see if Lu Yi and Yi were strong. If Lu Yi and Yi were strong enough, they naturally would not let him leave so easily. No matter what, they would have to fight. But Lu Yi and Yi did not take any action and let him leave. From this, the body cultivator concluded that the two were not too strong. Moreover, the two were standing at the edge of the hunting ground, obviously intending to leave. If their cultivation was strong enough, why would they leave when the hunting ground had just appeared? Any fourth or fifth order cultivator would not make such a choice. So, the body cultivator immediately determined that the two were cultivators who had just arrived at the Cloud River battlefield. At most, they were third-order cultivators and knew nothing about the hunting ground. Otherwise, they would not have come to the edge of the hunting ground. After confirming this, the probing ended. Now that Yi and Lu Yi fought, he found that his judgment was right. This petite female cultivator was a first-order Cloud River Realm cultivator, and the weapon cultivator with the fox mask was a third-order Cloud River Realm cultivator. This was a fat piece of meat that had been delivered to his mouth. There was no reason to let it go. Facing such two enemies, he did not even need to summon his spirit artifact shield. He only needed a punch to break Yi's spirit technique. A bright blade light flashed in his field of vision. The body cultivator's grin stiffened and blood splashed. The body cultivator punched out, forcing Lu Yi back while hurriedly retreating. Looking down, he saw a huge wound on his abdomen. His eyes narrowed and he was secretly shocked. How could a third-order weapon cultivator be so terrifying? As a fifth-order body cultivator, his physique was extremely strong. Even if a weapon cultivator of the same level slashed him, it would be impossible for him to suffer such an injury. However, a third-order weapon cultivator had refreshed his understanding. He did not summon his spirit artifact shield immediately because he had enough confidence in himself. But now, this confidence was shattered. Another wave of spirit techniques came. The petite first-order woman's casting speed was incomparably fast. These two were not ordinary Cloud River Realm cultivators. Especially the weapon cultivator, who was definitely on the spirit stream list. Thoughts flashed through his mind like lightning. The body cultivator did not dare to be careless and quickly summoned his spirit artifact shield to block Yi's various spirit techniques. A fierce murderous intent suddenly attacked from behind. The body cultivator had already lost sight of the weapon cultivator. He did not even notice when the other party had appeared behind him. The speed was too fast. He hurriedly turned around and used his spirit artifact shield to block Lu Ye's attack. Sparks flew, and the violent force caused the body cultivator's arm to go numb. This strength was not right. The body cultivator screamed in his heart. Who had he provoked? He thought that 2 pieces of meat had been delivered to his mouth, but he did not expect them to be so troublesome. He suddenly exerted his strength and used his spirit artifact shield to block Lu Ye's long blade. At some point, a spirit artifact appeared in his other hand. It glowed brightly and smashed towards Lu Ye. As for the spirit techniques attacking from behind, the body cultivator could no longer care about them and could only push his spirit chi and vitality to resist. Pung peng peng peng. Even though the body cultivator's skin was rough and his flesh was thick, taking Yi's attacks head-on still caused his body to tremble violently and his back to bleed. However, the difference in strength between the first order and fifth order was too great. These kinds of injuries were only superficial and were nothing to a body cultivator with vigorous vitality. Opposite him, Lu Ye's vitality and Hu Po's vitality merged and converged on his right arm. Facing the incoming attack, Lu Ye swung his mountain blade backwards. With a loud bang, the body cultivator's eyes widened. This was because he felt a force that was not inferior to his own coming from the other side at the moment their spirit weapons collided. Under the impact of this force, he almost lost his grip on his spirit weapon. His entire body was thrown back, and his chest was wide open. Lu Ye had already put away his blade and held it horizontally in front of him, assuming a stabbing posture. The body cultivator's hair stood on end. He wanted to resist, but he was far slower than Lu Ye. By the time he managed to stabilize himself, Lu Ye had already thrust his blade forward. The body cultivator was scared out of his wits. He madly pushed his spirit chi and raised his spirit artifact shield in front of him. He had already experienced the terrifying lethality of this fox-masked weapon cultivator and knew that it was impossible for him to block this attack with his physical defense alone. However, at that moment, a heaven-shaking tiger roar rang out and a shockwave visible to the naked eye rushed towards the body cultivator's head. It was as if someone had opened his skull and smashed it with an invisible sledgehammer. The body cultivator felt as if he had been hit by an invisible force, and his thoughts froze for a moment. This moment was the difference between life and death. The long blade stuck close to the edge of the spirit artifact shield and pierced straight through the body cultivator's abdomen. A light flashed across the blade as the grand thorn spirit inscriptions strengthened it. The intense pain made the body cultivator roar in anger. He fiercely pushed the spirit artifact shield forward and sent Lu Ye flying. At the same time, the sledgehammer smashed down. Lu Ye immediately pulled back his blade and held it horizontally in front of him. A huge force came from the long blade and pressed down on his body. He slid a few dozen meters on the ground, leaving 2 deep marks on the hard ground. The spells continued to bombard the burly physique cultivator from behind, causing him to stagger. Blood spurted out from his abdomen, and the pain caused his face to contort in agony. He could feel that he had suffered a serious injury because when the long saber pierced into his body, there were spikes that exploded inside his body, stirring up his internal organs into a mess. His vitality was quickly draining away. The body cultivator suddenly turned around and glared at Yi, who was constantly attacking him. He gritted his teeth and roared, "You're courting death." He knew that he was doomed, but before he died, he had to drag someone down with him. The third-order weapon cultivator's movements were too agile. It was impossible for him to kill him in his current state, so there was only one choice left. If he could get close to a first-order weapon cultivator, he could turn her into meat paste with a single blow. Chapter 500. The body cultivator charged at Yi aggressively, but he did not have any intention of dodging. She stood in place and continuously cast spells. Although the opponent's spirit artifact shield flickered with light, it was unable to stop the opponent's advance. Confusion flashed through the body cultivator's eyes. He did not know why this delicate female spell cultivator did not run. Under normal circumstances, when faced with such a huge gap in cultivation, the weaker party would definitely run. Even if they did not run, they would at least try to dodge. However, she just stood in place. Without much time to think, the body cultivator had already rushed in front of Yi while enduring her spells. A hint of joy flashed through his despairing eyes. He hurriedly changed his mind about killing this female spell cultivator. He wanted to capture her alive in exchange for the right to live. He pushed the spirit shield forward and slammed it into. This time, he held back a little because he was afraid that if he used all his strength, this female spell cultivator would explode. The spirit shield hit empty air. The body cultivator's eyes instantly widened. He could not believe what he had just seen. Just as his spirit shield was about to hit that delicate body, the other party sank into the ground and disappeared without a trace. What was this? What exactly was this? With so many thoughts surging through his mind, the body cultivator actually couldn't figure out what had happened to him. A living person had actually sunk into the ground right under his nose, and there was no pit at all on the ground, so it was still completely intact. What he had seen just now seemed to be an illusion. He did not know how the other party could sink into the ground. He only knew that he was really in trouble this time because a fierce killing intent was coming from behind him. He hurriedly turned around and saw a fiery red blade light. He hurriedly raised his spirit weapon to block it. With a clang, the body cultivator staggered back. The injuries in his body had a huge impact on him. The strength he could use was greatly reduced. Seeing that Lu Yi was coming for him again, he could no longer care. He activated his spirit power and leaped up, wanting to escape this place. Originally, he thought that if he could drag someone down with him, he would die. However, he could not find anyone to accompany him. If he died here, it would be too much of a loss. So no matter what, he had to escape. Looking at the body cultivator's leaping figure, the weapon box at Lu Ye's waist buzzed, and 9 streams of light shot out. Not only that, the long saber in his hand quickly slashed out 3 times. 3 crescent-shaped blade auras rushed out and attacked the body cultivator in a triangular formation. Thud 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 thud. The physique cultivator with his back facing Lu Yi was hit by the 9 imperial weapons and was slashed by the 3 saber auras. He could no longer maintain his body and flew up a few dozen feet before falling down with a scream. He fell heavily to the ground, seeing stars in front of him. When he regained his vision, a fox-like face appeared in front of him. Lu Yi held his saber in a reverse grip and stood in front of the body cultivator, stabbing down without hesitation. The blade pierced through his chest and came out from his back. The body cultivator's body suddenly stiffened. He raised a large hand to grab at Lu Ye's face, as if he wanted to tear off Lu Ye's face to see who had killed him. In the end, it was futile. As Lu Ye's long blade was pulled out, blood spurted out, and his life force quickly faded away. The body cultivator's raised hand also fell limply, and the light in his eyes froze. A red light flew out from the body cultivator's corpse and landed on the back of Lu Ye's hand. Bending down, Lu Yi put away the other party's 2 spirit weapons and removed the other party's storage bag. After making sure that he did not miss anything, he called out to Yi, "Let's go." This was not a place to stay for long. This was the periphery of the hunting ground, and the news of the hunting ground's appearance must have spread. If anyone had the intention to enter from the outside, they would definitely appear at the periphery immediately. Those who had the guts to barge into the hunting ground at this time were naturally confident in their own strength. If they continued to stay here, they would only be in endless trouble. Furthermore, the experts in the hunting ground were definitely rushing to the periphery at this moment as well. That was because they could wait here and ambush the cultivators of the enemy camp who barged in from the outside. Therefore, no matter what, in the early stages of the hunting ground, cultivators like Lu Yi who did not have a high cultivation could not stay at the periphery. In the first 3 days, the place with the most deaths was the periphery. Yi returned to Hu Po's body and Lu Yi sprinted out. He did not dare to fly out. Instead, he chose to run close to the ground. As a result, although his speed was not as fast as flying, with the support of the wind travel spirit rune, he was not slow. While running, he suddenly caught a glimpse of a dazzling light flashing in the sky from the corner of his eyes. Lu Yi stopped and raised his head. Above the blood curtain, a dazzling red light wriggled and flowed out like blood. Then, it turned into something that looked like a flag. In the entire hunting ground, in a radius of hundreds of thousands of kilometers, any cultivator could see this flag as long as they raised their heads. The blood-red flag fluttered in the air. At first, Lu Yi did not know what it was, but he soon reacted. This was the hunting ground's killing list, also known as the hunting list. Suddenly, he had a bad feeling in his heart, because he had just killed a 5th-order Cloud River Realm body cultivator who was 2 realms above him. The blood-red hunting list shook slightly and rows of golden words appeared on it. The first row was divided into 3 groups of words: name, hunting point, reward. From the second row onwards, it was the ranking. It went down in order: Lu Yi, 120. 1 grade A spring spirit, 9 golden spirit tags. Xia Liang, 100. 9 golden spirit tags. Tang Ke 80. 7 golden spirit tags. Yufu Meng 50. 5 golden spirit tags. Tan Xing 45. 5 golden spirit tags. Quietly looking at the hunting list that had suddenly appeared, the corner of Lu Ye's eyes twitched. His name was at the top of the list, occupying the first place. It was not an exaggeration to say that tens of thousands of people were looking at him. If he really had enough strength, his name would appear on the hunting list. Occupying the first place would not be a big deal. But the key point was that he was only a 3rd-order Cloud River Realm cultivator. Without enough strength, he occupied such a high position. Wasn't this the same as roasting him on a fire? This time, it was likely that everyone in the hunting ground had seen his name. The only thing that made him feel lucky was that this hunting list was not like the Spirit Stream list. It did not reveal the sect he came from, nor did it reveal his cultivation. If the sect he came from was revealed, the hunting ground would probably explode. Even if these Cloud River Realm cultivators did not know of his existence, they would have at least heard of the Blue Blood sect. If they became interested in him because of this, it would be very bad. Moreover, this list could change at any time. If someone's hunting points surpassed his ranking would be pushed down. Lu Ye's first place on the list was only temporary. Right now, the hunting list was not fully displayed because there were only a dozen or so people on it. After all, the hunting ground had just appeared, and the real battle had not yet broken out. The dozen or so people on the list were lucky enough to kill nearby enemy cultivators. Take Lu Yi for example. If the 5th-order body cultivator had not suddenly appeared near him and had malicious intentions towards him, he would not have joined forces with Yi to kill him. The complete hunting list showed 100 names. At this moment, the names of the dozen or so people were blank. The 120 points behind Lu Ye's name were obviously directly related to the merit points he obtained from killing the body cultivator. A 5th-order Cloud River Realm cultivator represented a base of 40 merit points, and with his 3rd-order cultivation, killing a 3rd-order cultivator who was 2 minor realms above him gave him exactly 120 merit points. In other words, the number of merit points he obtained from killing enemies was the same as the number that appeared on the hunting list. As for the Grade A Spring Spirit and the 9 Golden Spirit lots, they were the rewards given to him by the Heaven's Secret Association after the hunting ground closed. It did not mean that Lu Yi could obtain them. Of course, if he still occupied the first place after the hunting ground closed, these things would be his. However, This was obviously not realistic. The rewards of the hunting list were not fixed. Every time the hunting ground opened, the scope of the hunting ground would vary. The larger the hunting ground, the better the rewards. This time, the hunting ground was a large-scale one, so the rewards given by the Heaven's Secret Association were extremely generous. Without mentioning anything else, if Lu Yi could obtain the 9 golden spirit lots from the first place, it would not be a problem for him to break through to the 5th order. In addition to the 9 golden spirit lots, there was also a grade A spirit spring. This was something that could only be chanced upon by luck. If one had a grade A spirit spring, they only needed to find a suitable location and place it down. Then, they would immediately possess a grade A spirit land. Lu Yi did not care much for a grade C spirit land, but if he could really obtain a grade A spirit land, it would be of great help to him and Yi's cultivation. The rewards for the second place were not bad either. Compared to the first place, only the grade A spring spirit was missing. The third place was missing 2 golden spirit lots. The 4th to 6th places were rewarded with 5 golden spirit lots. The 7th to 10th places were rewarded with 3 golden spirit lots. Even the top 20 places had golden spirit lots as a reward. After the 20th place, the rewards were reduced to 1 or 2 purple spirit lots. After the 50th place, the rewards were reduced to 1 or 2 blue spirit lots. As for the rewards beyond the 100th place, the hunting list did not show it, so Lu Yi did not know. It could be said that the real value of the hunting list was in the top 10 places, especially the top 3. The number of spirit lots they had made Lu Yi jealous. It could be imagined that those Cloud River Realm 8th and 9th order cultivators would definitely do their best for the rewards of the hunting list. At their level of cultivation, 1 or 2 golden spirit lots could not bring much improvement. The rewards of the hunting list were undoubtedly what they urgently needed. Within a radius of hundreds of thousands of miles, countless cultivators were rushing over. Soon, the hunting ground would be in chaos. Lu Yi didn't expect to get a good ranking on the hunting ground. His only thought now was to stay alive and survive. Anyway, he could not run away. Surviving was victory. The only trouble now was that his name had appeared on the hunting list, and he occupied the first position on the list. It was very likely that he had already attracted the attention of some people. If that was really the case, then his future situation might be extremely bad. Chapter 501. No longer paying attention to the hunting list, Lu Yi continued to rush forward. The most important thing now was to leave the edge of the hunting ground as soon as possible. Of course, he couldn't go to the center of the hunting ground. The middle of the hunting ground and the edge was the most suitable place for him to hide. At the same time, somewhere in the hunting ground, Wei Kei, who was searching for Lu Yi but to no avail, stared at the hunting ground. He stared blankly at the first place on the hunting ground and suddenly burst into laughter. He had been searching for traces of Lu Yi nearby, but unfortunately he had found nothing. He was secretly annoyed that he had missed a good opportunity. The Cloud River battlefield was extremely vast, and if Lu Yi really wanted to hide his whereabouts, it would be difficult for him to find him again. But the sudden appearance of the hunting ground calmed the disappointment in his heart. He was a Cloud River 9th order cultivator, so he would undoubtedly be like a fish in water in the hunting ground. After all, no one in the Cloud River realm had a higher cultivation than him. Although his strength wasn't at the top, it was definitely not bad. As long as he wasn't too unlucky, it would be no problem for him to get into the top 10 of the hunting list. In such a large hunting ground, the top 10 would at least be rewarded with 3 golden spirit lots. The hunting list soon appeared, and as he had guessed, the top 10 would indeed receive at least 3 golden spirit lots. What made him even more overjoyed was that the first place on the hunting list was actually Lu Yi's name. This was really a case of wearing out iron shoes in a fruitless search, only to find it without any effort. This guy was also in the hunting ground. The hunting ground only allowed people to enter but not leave. Before the hunting ground closed, this guy wouldn't be able to leave. As long as he was still in the hunting ground, Wei Kei would have a chance. The top 10 rewards, the bounty for killing Lu Yi, all kinds of benefits were beckoning to him. How could Wei Kei not be happy? Wei Kei wasn't the only one staring at Lu Yi's name. Thousands of kilometers away, Jiang Liuzi and his brother were also looking at the hunting list. The hunting ground has just appeared, and Lu Yi already has 120 hunting points. He killed a fifth-order cultivator. Jiang Liuzi calculated in his heart and knew what Lu Yi had done. Although he could also kill an ordinary fifth-order cultivator with his strength, it was impossible for him to do it so quickly. From the opening of the hunting ground to the appearance of the hunting list, only a few dozen breaths of time had passed. Lu Yi's strength was a little too terrifying, but thinking back to the scene in the valley before, it was not surprising that Lu Yi had such strength. After all, Lu Yi was the guy who had defeated him head-on. If Wei Kai had not intervened at that time, he was afraid that he would have been killed. He's still in the hunting ground. Tell senior brother Lu Shu and the others to hurry over. We must not let Wei Kai beat us to it. Jiang Liuzi said to his brother, Jiang Qingzi, and the latter quickly nodded. Although they had cooperated with Wei Kai before, and it was Wei Kai who had told them about Lu Yi, that was just a cooperation. Since Wei Kai wanted to abandon them and eat alone, they didn't necessarily pin their hopes on Wei Quebec. In the face of such a great opportunity, the only one they could trust was their own senior brothers. On the other side, in a valley, the smell of blood filled the air. Several corpses were strewn about. Only then did a great battle come to an end. In the middle of the corpses, Xia Liang, who was dressed in a tight suit, raised his head and looked at the hunting list. He frowned when he saw the names that were temporarily revealed. He was only ranked second? The hunting ground had just opened, and he had killed a few people who didn't have eyes. He thought he would be in first place, but who knew he would only be second? Looking at the people behind him, most of their names were familiar. Even if he had never seen them before, he had at least heard of them. All of them were 8th or 9th order Cloud River Realm cultivators. After all, everyone had entered the Cloud River battlefield at around the same time. They had fought in the Spirit Stream battlefield before, so there was no shortage of friction in the Cloud River battlefield. Looking at the first place, who is this guy? Being able to obtain 120 hunting points in such a short time, he was definitely not an unknown person, but he had never heard of him. No, this name sounds familiar. Where have I heard it before? Pondering for a moment, he suddenly remembered that 2 months ago, a junior brother had broken through to the Cloud River realm and entered the Cloud River battlefield to deliver a message to him. Blue Blood Sect's Lu Yi had entered the Cloud River battlefield, and the sect had ordered him to eliminate him if he had the chance. Because the sect had suffered a big loss at his hands. On the Spirit Stream battlefield, he had extorted a total of 300,000 merit points from the sect, and had even included 20 sets of saber technique cultivation notes, which had been regarded as a great disgrace by the sect. Yes, Blue Blood Sect's Lu Yi. Although there were many people with the same name in this world, the name Lu Yi was not common. It was most likely the one he was looking for. Moreover, even if it was not the one he was looking for, so what? Daring to compete with him for first place, he was tired of living. Also, this boy and Li Baxin were junior brothers. If Li Baxin knew he was in the hunting ground, would he come to help? If Li Baxin also came, then things would be interesting. How could her precious daughter enter the Cloud River battlefield without a life-saving treasure? This spirit umbrella-like treasure not only had a strong defensive power, but it could also block the detection of others. It was a life-saving Dharma treasure. Chapter 502. In the hunting ground covered by the blood-colored sky, Lu Yi was busy in a cave more than 100 feet underground. He was setting up array flags one by one. The hunting list had exposed his name. He didn't know how many myriad Devil Ridge cultivators would pay attention to him, but he was sure that it wouldn't be a small number. He had stirred up too much trouble in the Spirit Stream battlefield. Which of the myriad Devil Ridge sects in the core circle didn't want to kill him? In the Spirit Stream battlefield, the myriad Devil Ridge would never have a chance, but the Cloud River battlefield was different. There were countless experts with higher cultivation than him who could kill him. This was an opportunity for the myriad Devil Ridge. He believed that when he entered the Cloud River battlefield, those myriad Devil Ridge forces who had suffered at his hands before must have sent a message to their disciples, asking them to pay attention to his movements. Before he was exposed, it didn't matter. Everything could be done secretly, and not many people would pay attention to him. But once he was exposed, he would definitely become the target of public criticism. Especially now that he was in the hunting ground and couldn't escape. Therefore, Lu Yi had to prepare a way out for himself. He had many spirit inscriptions that he could use to hide and conceal himself, but there were always accidents. If he was discovered by someone, he would have to escape quickly if he couldn't beat them. Using teleportation arrays was a very good way. The teleportation arrays he had set up before were all teleportation arrays. They were all 1-to-1 teleportation arrays. This kind of array was usually useful for escaping and saving lives. But in the hunting ground, he naturally had to choose a safer way. Therefore, what he was going to set up now was the kind of teleportation array that was multiple point to many. Every teleportation array that was set up was a child array, and they were all mother arrays. In this way, he didn't need too many. He only needed to set up 7 or 8 teleportation arrays scattered throughout the hunting ground. Then he could teleport back and forth between all the teleportation arrays. Only then could he sit back and relax. If his cultivation wasn't enough, Lu Yi was determined not to take the initiative to cause trouble. It was undoubtedly much more complicated to set up a teleportation array that was multiple point to many. Fortunately, as his cultivation increased, the difficulty of setting up the array correspondingly decreased. An hour later, a teleportation array had been set up. Lu Yi set up a concealment array and an explosion array at the side. In this way, even if someone accidentally entered this place, if one didn't check carefully, they wouldn't be able to discover the traces of the formation. Taking a step back, even if they accidentally stepped into the range of the formation, they wouldn't be able to escape. It would also trigger the explosion array, and all of the arrangements would be completely destroyed. This was also a form of insurance. This was to prevent others from discovering the insurance he had set up. After making sure everything was in order, Lu Yi left. The next step was to find some hidden places to continue setting up. He still didn't dare to fly in the air, running close to the ground. At the same time, he pushed his perception to the limit. But if there was any movement without saying another word, a concealment spiritual tattoo was added to his body. He held his breath. Under such caution, the journey was smooth. Along the way, they could feel some spiritual energy fluctuations from time to time. Those were the cultivators fighting in the hunting ground. Occasionally, there would be powerful cultivators flying over their heads. Those who dared to act so unscrupulously were either 8th order or 9th order. Lu Yi would never dare to provoke such a person. After running for over 100 miles, Lu Yi checked his surroundings. After confirming that there was no one around, he constructed a void spirit rune and used it to sense the teleportation formation he had set up earlier. He confirmed the connection between them. He didn't know the maximum distance between the teleportation formations he had set up, so he had to do some tests from time to time. The connection between the void spirit rune and the teleportation formation was very close. It meant that he hadn't reached his limit yet. He continued to move forward. It was only when he was nearly 200 miles away that the connection became weak. He was almost at his limit. In other words, with his current cultivation, the limit of the teleportation formation he set up was 200 miles. He had made a lot of progress compared to before. It was also more convenient for him to carry out his plan. The farther the teleportation formation was, the safer his situation would be. Lu Yi summoned Yi and asked her to go underground to find a suitable place to set up the teleportation formation while he searched nearby. After a while, he found a cave. The location wasn't very good, because if a cultivator found this cave, they would definitely come in to investigate. However, there was no better place nearby. Lu Yi could only choose this cave. He walked in and went a few dozen meters deep. At the bottom of the cave, he got busy. At the same time, he asked Yi to stand guard outside to avoid being blocked inside. If he was blocked inside before the teleportation formation was set up, there would be no way out. After busying for an hour, another teleportation formation was set up. It was also covered by a concealment formation and an explosion formation in case of accidents. In this way, even if a cultivator entered the cave, as long as they didn't go to the bottom, they wouldn't trigger the explosion formation. Walking out of the cave, Lu Yi looked up. The hunting list was still hanging high in the sky. The blood-red flag was extremely eye-catching. Looking at it, Lu Yi found that his ranking had fallen beyond the 50th place. This was very normal. It had been 4 hours since the hunting ground appeared. During this period of time, there were battles everywhere. When there were battles, there would be deaths, and the deaths would generate hunting points. More than 100 hunting points wasn't too much, so Lu Ye's ranking naturally kept falling. According to this trend, it wouldn't be long before his name disappeared from the hunting list. Lu Yi had no interest in the hunting list. In the hunting ground, his only goal was to survive. He continued forward. In this environment, the concealment spirit rune was of great help. If it wasn't for the concealment spirit rune, Lu Yi probably wouldn't be able to move forward. But with the concealment spirit rune, even if someone passed by, as long as they weren't too close to him, he would be safe. After half a day, Lu Yi set up 4 teleportation formations one after another. Only then did he have a slight sense of security. It wasn't enough. He still needed to set up more. While quietly moving forward, Lu Yi suddenly raised his head and looked into the distance. He saw that in the sky, a 5-colored light was rolling and gathering. In an extremely short period of time, it turned into a 5-colored cloud. The Heaven Bestowment Spirit signing had arrived. The Heaven Bestowment Spirit signing would appear almost every day in the Cloud River battlefield. But ordinary cultivators wouldn't encounter it often. After all, the Cloud River battlefield was very vast. Even if there were Heaven Bestowment Spirits signing every day, who knew where the cloud would appear? Take Lu Yi for example. He had been in the Cloud River battlefield for nearly 2 months and had only encountered it once. However, things were different in the hunting ground. There would be a heavenly bestowal spirit lot almost every day. The area spanning hundreds of thousands of kilometers was neither large nor small. Once the colorful clouds appeared, many cultivators would be able to see them clearly. It could be said that in the hunting ground, every heavenly bestowal spirit lot had a 20 to 30% chance of participating. Moreover, the Heaven Bestowment Spirit signing in the hunting ground was a 5-colored cloud almost every time. In other words, there would definitely be 1 or even a few golden spirit signing lots. This was too tempting for those experts. Looking at the rolling 5-colored cloud, Lu Yi suddenly had a bad feeling in his heart. He remembered the last time he encountered a Heaven Bestowment Spirit signing lot. What he feared would happen. After the 5-colored cloud formed, it floated straight in his direction. Although it was still far away, it was indeed floating in his direction. Lu Yi made a prompt decision. He turned around and rushed to the side. If he wasn't in the hunting ground, he would be interested in participating. After all, no one knew which camp he belonged to. As long as he wasn't too greedy to fight for the blue spirit signing lots, it wouldn't be a problem for him to snatch some white or green spirit signing lots. But this was the hunting ground. If they really got involved, their Grand Heaven Alliance camp wouldn't be able to hide anything. When the time came, they would be surrounded by people with red lights on the backs of their hands. When they saw Lu Yi, a mere 3rd-order Cloud River Realm cultivator dared to show himself. Even 10 lives wouldn't be enough. As he ran, he observed that the 5-colored cloud was still floating in his direction. The corner of Lu Ye's eyes twitched. It seemed that sometimes, being too lucky wasn't a good thing. While running, Lu Yi suddenly stopped and hurriedly hid his figure. It was because a stream of light was flying in his direction. It was obviously heading towards the 5-colored cloud. Judging from the other party's spirit energy fluctuations, this person was an 8th-order cultivator. Thinking about it, without such cultivation, one wouldn't dare to act so arrogantly in the hunting ground. This person suddenly stopped 1,000 feet away from Lu Yi and quietly looked at the 5-colored cloud floating in his direction. Lu Yi suddenly felt uncomfortable. He could only maintain his concealment spirit rune and stay still. He didn't know which camp the other party belonged to. If it was Grand Heaven Alliance, it would be fine. But if it was Myriad Demon Ridge, daring to expose his whereabouts at this time, he would probably die without a burial place. The appearance of the 5-colored cloud undoubtedly alarmed a large number of cultivators. Some chased after it while others met it. In just a short moment, many eyes were focused on it. Lu Yi could only pray that the five-colored cloud didn't stop too close to him. As time passed, the five-colored cloud got closer and closer. Below the cloud, cultivators were either chasing after it on their artifacts or running on the ground. From time to time, a battle would break out. Lu Yi suddenly felt that something was wrong. In his perception, there was a life aura not far from him. Quietly activating his insight spirit rune to enhance his eyes, various colors flowed and changed in his vision. Lu Yi looked at a certain spot a few dozen feet away. There was a ghost cultivator hiding his figure. The battlefield imprint on the back of his hand didn't react. The other party might be from Grand Heaven Alliance. However, Lu Yi wasn't sure if the battlefield imprint would react when both parties were hiding if they weren't far away. Chapter 503. The fact that this ghost cultivator could sense Lu Ye's gaze meant that he wasn't weak, but he didn't dare to act rashly without being able to determine Lu Ye's exact location. After a while, he quietly moved away from Lu Ye's location. Obviously, he was afraid or had misunderstood something. The five-colored cloud stopped about a dozen kilometers away from Lu Yi. Looking in that direction, Lu Yi felt a lingering fear. That should be where he found the cloud. In other words, if he didn't run, he should be directly below the cloud. Fortunately, he ran away. Otherwise, the current situation would be very awkward. Lu Yi suddenly remembered the situation of the heaven-bestowed spirit lot last time. The spirit lots that flew out of the cloud radiated in all directions. If he was directly below it, he really couldn't snatch a spirit lot. So, his current position was really awkward. A dozen kilometers away from the cloud was the range of the spirit lot meeting. Lu Yi didn't know what to say. At this moment, he didn't dare to act rashly, because several auras had appeared around him. Obviously, they were all cultivators who had calculated the distance and position and ran here to compete for the spirit lots. The closest guy was only 200 feet away from him. He was hiding in a big tree, looking up at the sky. He could only deal with the changes by sticking to the status quo. When the spirit lots flew down, the scene would definitely be very chaotic. It wouldn't be too late to find a chance to leave then. Quietly lurking. Everyone was waiting. Even those 8th and 9th Order Cloud River Realm Masters. At this time, there were no side issues. At this juncture, snatching the spirit lots was the most important thing. After about half a cup of tea's time, there was a sudden commotion. Lu Yi looked up. He saw the five-colored cloud in the sky tremble. With the cloud as the center, streams of light shot out one after another. They flew in all directions. When the spirit lots first came out, they didn't show their true colors. So no one knew what color those spirit lots were. Only when the spirit lots flew to a certain distance would they reveal their true colors. At that time, gold, purple, green, and white would be clear at a glance. The experts naturally had their eyes fixed on the better quality of the spirit lots. Those who were weak could only adhere to the principle of proximity. They fought for the easiest ones. The spirit lots closest to them. This time, the number of spirit lots attracted a lot of cultivators. So the scene was bound to be very chaotic. Under the watchful eyes of the crowd, streams of light drifted in all directions. Soon, different colors appeared. In an instant, almost all the cultivators began to move. They all pounced on their targets. Some of them fought in groups of 3 to 5, while others fought alone. The scene was extremely lively. In the blink of an eye, most of the spirit lots had already been decided, but the remaining ones were still being fought over. Several cultivators around Lu Yi also rushed into the sky. Taking advantage of this opportunity, he hurriedly moved. He still maintained the concealment spirit pattern. Therefore, the speed was very slow. It was roughly equivalent to a person's normal walking speed. It wasn't that he didn't want to be fast, but if he was too fast, the concealment spirit rune would lose its effect. Under the premise that the concealment spirit tattoo was still in effect, this was already the fastest speed. All kinds of chaotic spirit energy fluctuations came from behind him. Curses and roars could be heard from time to time, as well as cries and screams. Lu Yi didn't need to look back to know that there was a fierce battle going on over there. Usually, Cultivators wouldn't fight with their lives on the line. However, the situation in the hunting ground was different. It was easy for those who fought over the spirit lots to determine if the other party was in the same camp as them. If they were in the enemy camp, they would naturally hammer them to death. While he was escaping, a miserable cry suddenly came from afar and quickly entered his ears. Lu Yi immediately turned his head and saw a cultivator fall from the sky, covered in blood. This guy had clearly lost in the battle just now. Lu Yi didn't know who had injured him, but judging from the amount of blood on his body, his injuries were obviously not light. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been unable to maintain his figure. Coincidentally, the place where this person landed was exactly where Lu Yi was standing. If this hit, Lu Yi reckoned that even if his physique was comparable to a body cultivator of the same level, he definitely wouldn't be able to withstand it. Without any hesitation, he hurriedly dodged to the side. This action caused the concealment spirit pattern that he had been maintaining all this time to be broken, and his figure was revealed. With a bang, the dirt on the ground flew up. The person who fell from the sky fell heavily to the ground. He rolled a few times before barely coming to a stop. He struggled to get up, but after trying twice, he still failed. He spat out a mouthful of blood and half knelt on the ground, gasping for breath. His face was as pale as paper. His almost unfocused gaze suddenly fixed on the back of his hand where a bright red light was blooming. There was someone, and it was from Grand Sky Alliance. That person immediately raised his head and saw Lu Yi standing not far away with a helpless expression. Lu Yi, who only wanted to leave this place quietly, clearly didn't expect to encounter such a thing. At this moment, a faint blue light was blooming on the back of Lu Ye's hand. The light wasn't strong, but it was extremely eye-catching in the blood veil. Retracting his helpless expression and lowering his eyes slightly, Lu Yi exerted strength in his legs and pounced out like a cheetah, unsheathing his mountain pan saber. He didn't know how high this unlucky guy's cultivation was, but the other party was obviously seriously injured. Since he had discovered his whereabouts, it was impossible for him to pretend that he didn't see him. Seeing Lu Yi rushing over, that person gritted his teeth and tried to get up. However, he was already seriously injured and had just fallen from the sky. Not only was his spirit chi scattered, but he also had many broken bones. How could he stand up? Before he could even get up, Lu Yi had already brushed past him. The fiery red saber light drew an arc as it slashed across the other party's neck. That person's figure froze in place. His mouth squirmed as if he wanted to say something, but no words came out. A red light flew out and landed on the back of Lu Ye's hand. Another figure descended from the sky. The powerful spirit chi fluctuations on his body showed that this person was a Cloud River Realm 9th Order Master. Lu Yi turned around and stared at the other party. Looking at the back of the other party's hand, he relaxed. No one's battlefield mark responded, indicating that they were both from Grand Sky Alliance. This person looked at the corpse on the ground, then looked at Lu Yi and said angrily, "Smelly brat, you really know how to take advantage of others." Inferring from this person's words, the guy who fell from the sky was obviously injured by him. Originally, he could have easily obtained merit points and hunting points, but Lu Yi beat him to it. Lu Yi looked innocent. He didn't want to. Who told that guy to fall in front of him? He could only take the initiative to gain the upper hand. Although this Grand Sky Alliance master was annoyed that Lu Yi had taken advantage of him, he didn't intend to find trouble with him. Sensing that Lu Yi was only a third order master, he frowned and said, "This is a dangerous place. Leave quickly." Lu Yi cupped his fists and rushed away. This time, he didn't even have time to activate his concealment spirit tattoo to hide his body. After Lu Yi left, this person bent down and picked up a storage bag. Then he pried open the dead man's hand and took a blue spirit stick from his hand. It wasn't that he wanted to snatch Lu Ye's spoils of war. This was something that should belong to him. Turning around, the five-colored cloud trembled again. Streams of light shot out in all directions. The spirit stick appeared again. This person jumped up and rushed into the sky to join the fight. Lu Yi ran for nearly 100 kilometers in one breath. When he turned back, he saw that the five-colored cloud had shrunk to half its original size. He knew that the heaven-bestowed spirit stick was about to end and the golden spirit stick was about to appear. With the appearance of the golden spirit stick, the cultivators from the two camps would probably beat him to a pulp. It was a pity. If his cultivation was higher, even if he was only a 5th-order Cloud River Realm cultivator, Lu Yi felt that he was qualified to participate in such a grand event. He didn't need to compete for the golden purple spirit stick, but he could at least grab the ones below the purple spirit stick. His 3rd-order realm cultivation was still too weak. In such a chaotic scene, it was better for him to not participate. Just as he was about to withdraw his gaze, Lu Ye's eyes fixed on the hunting list again. At this moment, the rankings on the hunting list were constantly changing. From time to time, people's names would disappear from the hunting list. They must have died in battle. Otherwise, it would be impossible for them to disappear for no reason. There were also people whose rankings suddenly rose, obviously because they killed an enemy. There were also people whose rankings fell. Lu Yi looked at the 15th row and the corner of his eyes couldn't help but twitch. Lu Yi, 370 points, 1 golden spirit stick. He was previously ranked in the 50s, and with the passage of time, it was constantly falling. In less than half a day, he should have fallen off the hunting list. But at this moment, his rankings suddenly soared from the 50s to the 15th place. Compared to the previous 120, his hunting points had increased by 250. Crazy. In the hunting ground, he had only killed 2 people, but he could occupy the 15th place. This didn't mean that the others were weak. Now, those who could be on the hunting list were basically cultivators above the 7th order. Most of them were in the 8th or 9th order. He could reach the 15th place on the hunting list mainly because the benefits of killing enemies above his realm were too great. He was the first to kill a 5th order cultivator who was 2 minor realms higher, so his hunting points increased by 120. As for the one just now, it directly increased by 250 points. Lu Yi did a little calculation and came to a conclusion. The unlucky guy who was beheaded by him just now was actually a 7th order cultivator. The base number of merit points for a 7th order Cloud River Realm cultivator was 50. Crossing 4 minor realms meant 5 times the reward, which was exactly 250 merit points. The 7th order cultivator. Lu Yi really didn't know what to say. He originally thought that it wouldn't be long before his name fell off the hunting list, but who would have thought that it would soar so quickly? If he wanted to fall off again, he didn't know how long he would have to wait. Fortunately, the hunting list didn't reveal a cultivator's cultivation. Otherwise, a 3rd order cultivator in a group of 8th or 9th order cultivators would be too eye-catching. Just like in the Spirit Stream battlefield, when he killed his way into the Spirit Stream list with his 7th order cultivation, shocking everyone in the Spirit Stream battlefield. Chapter 504. Retracting his gaze, Lu Yi continued to run. Half an hour later, he found a cave and flashed into it to set up an array. The heaven-bestowed spirit lot had ended, and the 5 colored clouds had disappeared, but the battle had not ended. Previously, the 8th and 9th order cultivators had wanted to fight for the spirit lot and did not want to cause any trouble. Now that they were free, they naturally would not be polite. From time to time, people were killed. On the hunting list, the names of people were fluctuating. For cultivators with low cultivation, the hunting ground was indeed dangerous. However, the various opportunities here continued to attract them from the outside into the hunting ground. Therefore, as time passed, the total number of cultivators in the hunting ground did not decrease. Instead, it increased. Most cultivators' goal was not the hunting list, because they did not have the qualifications to be on the list. Moreover, even if they were barely on the hunting list, if their ranking was not high enough, they would not receive much reward in the end. The real value of the hunting list was in the top 20. As long as they entered the top 20, they would receive a varying number of golden spirit lots. Their goal was not even the heaven-bestowed spirit lot. Every time there was a heaven-bestowed spirit lot, the scene was very chaotic. It was a stage for many powerhouses to show off their skills. For cultivators with low cultivation, the most important thing was to participate. It was best if they could snatch it. If they could not snatch it, It was not a loss as long as they could keep their lives. Their real goal was the various opportunities scattered in the hunting ground. Just like at this moment, Lu Yi set up a teleportation array. He tested this array and confirmed that it was connected to the nearby teleportation arrays. Just as he walked out of the cave, a light not far away was imprinted in his eyes. What was certain was that this light had only appeared not long ago, because if it had existed before, he would have discovered it long ago. He was not blind. How could he not see such an obvious thing? In other words, this light appeared when he entered the cave to set up the array. Seeing the light, Lu Yi had a vague guess. There were some records of this in the intelligence of the Heavenly Secret Commerce Alliance. Without hesitation, he hurriedly stepped forward. He came to the front of the light. He reached out and grabbed it. The light converged. Lu Yi retracted his hand, and a spirit lot appeared in his hand. It was not a good thing, just a white spirit lot of the lowest quality. But this kind of free thing. Naturally, the requirements could not be too high. Picking it up was a profit. He did not dare to stay in place. He quickly left. In the hunting ground, this kind of light that randomly appeared everywhere. As for what would be contained in the light, that was hard to say. Lu Yi and the others retracted the light and immediately activated the transmission array, their figures disappearing. In a cave 200 kilometers away, the moment Lu Ye's figure appeared, he immediately sensed that something was wrong. Looking up, he saw a figure standing a few dozen meters away, looking at him with a face full of surprise. Obviously, he didn't expect that a living person would suddenly appear in front of him. Every cultivator would often experience teleportation. Entering and exiting the Spirit Stream battlefield and the Cloud River battlefield were all done with the help of Heaven's secret pillars. But that was with the help of Heaven's secret pillars, which was the power of Heaven's secret. No Cloud River realm cultivator could arrange a transmission array for teleportation, so when Lu Yi suddenly appeared in front of this person couldn't react for a while. It was just a coincidence that he had entered this cave. Just as Lu Yi had worried before, because there were all kinds of opportunities scattered around the hunting ground, cultivators would generally enter a cave to check it out, lest they miss anything. The transmission array that Lu Yi had arranged was usually at the bottom of the cave, so as long as the cultivator didn't go too deep into the cave, the transmission array wouldn't be activated. This person entered the cave to check, but didn't find anything, so he turned to leave. Just as he was about to leave, Lu Yi just happened to teleport over. Soon, he saw the faint blue light on the back of Lu Ye's hand. At the same time, Lu Yi also noticed the dark red light on the back of his opponent's hand. Almost without hesitation, his opponent raised his hand and attacked with a spell technique. This kind of terrain was a heaven-sent opportunity for a spell cultivator like him. As long as he maintained his attack, even if his opponent's cultivation was a level higher than his, he wouldn't be able to get close to him. Don't! Lu Ye's expression changed, and he hurriedly called out, but it was still too late. The spell technique swept past, and a powerful spirit energy fluctuation instantly activated the transmission array. Dazzling light blossomed, accompanied by a loud buzzing sound. The spell cultivator's expression turned into one of shock. Violent spirit energy swept out, and the transmission array that Lu Yi had set up was instantly destroyed. The powerful impact lifted him up, and he crashed heavily into the rock wall. At the top of the cave, rubble rustled down, almost burying Lu Yi. Lu Yi didn't have it easy, and the spell cultivator didn't have it easy either. The transmission array was activated too suddenly, and he wasn't prepared at all. The moment he sensed that something was wrong, he hurriedly activated a spirit energy barrier to protect himself, but he was still smashed by the falling rubble. After a long while, the chaos subsided. His cultivation is definitely not at the 5th order, probably only at the 1st order, because he entered the Cloud River battlefield less than 2 months ago. 1st order. Gasps could be heard. A 1st order cultivator, who would find it difficult to move around the hunting ground, could hold that special golden spirit lot for 24 hours. It was simply unimaginable. But thinking about it, if one couldn't do things that ordinary people couldn't do, how could they obtain 1,000 hunting points? Originally, they were a little puzzled as to why Lu Yi could obtain so many hunting points, but now it seemed that this was clearly a reward from the Heaven Secret. If it were any of them, even if they were 7th or 8th order cultivators, they wouldn't dare to say that they could hold that spirit lot for 24 hours. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.